To get in some of the nuts and bolts about bioenergetic medicine, we have to understand the very basic concepts about energy. All matter holds energy, and this energy is measurable. Dr. Voll discovered this back in the 1940s. With this discovery, he also developed equipment that was able to read this energy. To think deeper about equipment that can measure energy, think about MRIs, CT scans, or even EKGs. These are all forms of equipment that measure energy, just in different ways. Bioresonance testing is another way to measure energy. Since the 1940s, when Dr. Voll developed this equipment, to today, where we use an amplified form of this, we're able to study how someone's hair and saliva reacts to a variety of things. Let me give you a few examples. First, food sensitivities. If we take a client's samples and expose them to bananas, and it falls within a range of 50 to 59 hertz, which is the measurement unit we use, then we know bananas are not a sensitivity. Now let's say we take wheat and expose the client's samples to the energy or code of wheat, and the value jumps up to 65. Then we know that client is sensitive to wheat. The further in either direction away from 50 to 59, the bigger the sensitivity. Now let's look at toxins. When testing and we see that a bacteria is resonating, then we dig deeper into that specific bacteria to see which one it could be. We are basically filtering through thousands of codes or energies of bacteria to find the exact code that matches with that person's hair and saliva. When we find that exact match, this tells us that bacteria resonates with the client. This means that they have been exposed to that bacteria and are holding the energy of it. Maybe the physical bacteria is no longer there, but the remnants of the energy still is, which means it can still impact that client negatively and it needs to be cleared. To give you one final example, let's chat about nutritional deficiencies. In the same filtering mechanism, we will filter through different nutritional categories and see if there are missing codes of specific nutrients. So for example, B12 has its own energetic code, as does glutamine and selenium. So when we're filtering through these nutritional categories and are able to identify a missing code for a specific nutrient, then we know the person is deficient in that specific nutrient. Hopefully these examples give you a little idea at a deeper level of how the technology works. There are quite a few benefits. One, it is completely non-invasive. No needles, no elimination diets, no x-rays, just a simple saliva swab and clip of a hair. Two, we're looking at the whole picture. We are not just a digestive system. We're not just an endocrine system. Our bodies work as a whole, and we need to look at the whole picture to understand it. Putting any specific area under a microscope would be silly when we need to look at the entire environment. Maybe someone comes because they're struggling with chronic fatigue. Well, there's so many factors that we need to investigate every aspect that could be involved. Maybe your first thought is it's a hormonal imbalance, but where do you go from there? With testing, you would be able to identify that they have a compromised gut lining that is not allowing them to assimilate their nutrients like they need to, starving certain glands and organs from producing certain hormones. Or maybe a specific virus has come up that has been chronically wearing the body down over time. The possibilities are really endless. Never once have I seen a report exactly the same. Every person is so drastically different in their stress levels, their deficiencies, their toxin levels. With all these differences, having a customized regimen specific to that person's needs and ability to handle certain remedies is priceless. Our testing parameters are huge. We look at the entire body. We are testing against thousands of toxins, hundreds of possible sensitivities for close to 30 hormones, and against thousands of remedies. With parameters this big, we're able to get down to the specifics in so many different areas that we are honing in on what each person needs to focus on the most. When we are testing to see where someone is right now. So this means that we're able to identify what's the most important thing that needs to be tackled, tackle it, and then move on to the next issue. Our bodies change, and they change quick, which brings me to the onion analogy. I use that one a lot. We all have our own onion, meaning that at the center of our onion is ideal optimum health. And then we all have layers like an onion, layers of toxins and health issues. And the beauty of testing is that we're able to identify what's at the most exterior layer of someone's onion. The exterior of the onion is what's most negatively impacting them right now, and it's the easiest layer to peel. Of course, there are issues at a deeper level that maybe we can't see yet, and we shouldn't try to address it until we address the layers above it. It's a very systematic process that typically makes it an easy process for most clients to go through. A lot of people haven't heard about it before, but I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, "This was my last-ditch effort, but I wish it would have been my first." The testing is utilized kind of as getting a baseline, so we can start to see the results shift. It seems the sweet spot for most people is 3 scans back to back. And this would be an initial scan, take a regimen. When the regimen's done, have a scan done again, and continue that for 3 full regimens. Of course, everyone's different, and some of our chronically ill people take a lot longer, yet others see drastic differences right away. Some people like to be tested quarterly, others annually, and there's some that just want to be tested when they're not feeling well. Everyone's a little bit different. Most clients and patients seem to thrive when they're able to see the system performance, understand the deficiency or toxin that could be driving each system down, and then what they can do about it. This is an example of the first portion of the full scan. What we do is we bioenergetically test the energy that emanates from the hair and saliva. This is how we come up with this system performance. The system performance is 14 systems throughout the body. We analyze 58 different areas to make up these 14 systems. Here's a little color-coded area to represent the different stress levels that we find. Blue is ideal, yellow is where stress has started, orange is chronic stress, and then when we get into the red, under 40%, that's where we see weakness, and then so on to chronic weakness in the maroon color. Each system, as you can see, is specifically labeled, and you can even click on it to see more about what that system is. So as you look through here, you have a benchmark of exactly where your energetic systems lie in terms of stress levels. This is really powerful information because then as we work through the rest of the report, looking at sensitivities and resonating toxins and imbalances in terms of nutrients and hormones, it will help us understand why we're seeing some of these stress levels here and what we can do to improve these levels. If you look a little bit further down, here's an area where you see where we identify the most stressed systems once we've tested them, and then additionally every other area that is creating stress within one of the systems above. This section is testing bioenergetic sensitivities. Each sensitivity we test has an energetic pattern. So when we expose that pattern to the energy on the hair and saliva, we're able to determine energetically if a specific food or environmental item is a sensitivity. So here you see each and every single category that we test. And then if there's an item listed underneath it, that came up as an energetic sensitivity. So here's a really nice function where you can click this tab, and what you'll see here is all the different categories that we test, and then the items within that category that we're testing against. So for example, if you click fish, here's the long list of different fish that we test. Or if we click nuts, you can see the long list of different nuts that we test. Within this section, we're testing energetic nutritional imbalances. We're analyzing the energy that emanates from the hair and saliva, looking for different missing nutritional factors. The categories we test here: aminos, fatty acids, vitamins, enzymes, and minerals. Each nutrient that we find low in terms of a Hertz value, we're going to identify under that section. Glutamine, cysteine, DHEA, for example. In the report, not only do we list it, but then we also list food sources that are potent in those nutrients. In a perfect world, we're simply going to get those nutrients in our diet from whole food sources. This is a really valuable part of the test because we're able to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together and understand how does magnesium or copper interact in terms of affecting system performance. How do certain resonating toxins deplete us of certain nutritionals? How do certain stress factors deplete us of certain nutrients like B12? Putting the puzzle pieces together is so important, and this is a critical part of the report. Within this section, we're testing for energetic toxins. Every toxin has its own energetic code. That energetic code can be matched to the energy that emanates from the hair and saliva. So in this section, we're testing for these 6 categories of bacteria, metals, parasites, chemicals, molds, and viruses. So when we're testing, we like to use the analogy of an onion. We all have layers. So from one test to the next, we're able to identify what is most significantly impacting us in that outermost layer. So from one test to the next, you might find that these energetic toxins shift, but that's wonderful because we want to grab that layer that's easiest to peel back so that we can keep working towards optimum health. This section, we're looking at energetic hormonal imbalances. When we're testing hormones, what we do is we look at the energetic code of 30 different hormones and test that against the energy that emanates from the hair and saliva. The most imbalanced hormones are going to be listed within the report, either high or low hormones. And in a perfect world, addressing stress found through other sections of the report, these will hopefully start to balance on their own. But these hormones can be really indicative of other things going on that can help arm you with information to make changes in your day-to-day life. For example, seeing high cortisol, that might be helpful to incorporate things like meditation and yoga. Or things like high estrogen coming up could be helpful to know so that we reduce those xenoestrogen exposures in our day-to-day life. In the last section of the full scan, we're testing for balancing remedies. We test against thousands of different formulas and identify roughly 20 different remedies that balance well against the energy that emanates from the hair and saliva. From those 20 formulas, we synergistically make sure what's listed in the report tests well together. That's going to include herbs, homeopathics, and nutritional supplementation.